and snug now.
Oh my God, I am amazed that I only have two people on this panel with me right now, and it's just there are so many people who whine, complain, and bitch about making a better con. This panel is going to be all about us telling. I'm sure more people are going to show up. They're going to see this and be like, I have a zillion ideas. Let me come on in and tell everybody. So we're going to introduce our panel with Theo pulls up. This, of course, is a live panel every weekday at 4 p.m. Eastern, part of the On-Con experience. Today, we have Brian K. Morris.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Brian K. Morris of Rising Tide Publications. We do comics, we do books, we do everything, it seems, some days. Anyway, our website is risingtide.pub, where you can sign up for my monthly newsletter. And in addition to that, in my copious amounts of spare time, I do a daily Facebook Live show, also broadcast on YouTube, called Nevermind the Furthermore, where you get to come on, talk to me, talk to your friends, and promote yourself, also on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, Clever Title Pending, where we talk about creativity and the business behind it. This week, we're greeting two first-time authors, and we're going to talk to them about how they got there, what it took to get into print, and where they're going to go from there. We welcome your questions, and thank you, Rob, for having me.
Hello out there. My name is Billy Ray Valentine. No, it's not. It's it's very grand. Hello, everybody out there. Acclaimed artist. Acclaimed. I mean, subgenius. There's so many things. Co-publisher of Last Call Comics, founder of Indie Vote Media LLC. You can find me on Indie Vote every Tuesday night, Thursday morning, Friday night. I host the Art of War. So yeah, find me on Indie Vote. And I'm here today to talk to Rob and Brian and tell them, give them my expertise because, you know, again, like I said, I'm a genius. You need to talk to me about these things. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to need to see paperwork on that genius thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to need to see some papers. That number is accurate. The IQ test that went with it. All right,
busy typing them up now.
Yeah. Oh.
Wow, 2 comments already. All right. Hello, Carl, and hello, Indie Creators Unite. So let's start it, man. I'll throw out some more invites, get some people rallied. I can't share anything right now, so if you guys can share stuff, that'd be awesome. I'm on a timeout from Facebook because I burnt it down doing the Cat Dad and Supermom Kickstarter, so I'm on a little bit of a timeout with them. So I got to take a couple days before I share anything. So if you guys are watching, please share it, get people excited. But let's start off. Brian K. Morris, what do you got? What should an improvement be, or a couple of improvements? And we'll talk about them. The cons when they come back finally in 2021. Because let's be honest, any show that's going to be in 2020 now is not going to be a regular show. There's not going to be a normal show in 2020 because there'll be just different pressures. It'll be weird. Either people will run to it in certain areas or they'll run away from it. So there'll be no normal in Comic Cons until 2021 now. So we're looking till 2021. And it's sad to say that considering we're in May. It's the truth. So what do you got, Brian? What do you think would be a good way to move forward?
Well, first thing I think we should do is just embrace the fact that we're probably going to have a couple of years where we are dealing with things that are totally beyond our control, namely the My Sharona Cyrus, where we're going to have to pay more attention to how we interact with each other, the sanitation of the venue, etc. But I think that's going to be with us for a couple of years from what I'm hearing from the experts, until we get some things happening like an inoculation against it, like the flu shot every year. But otherwise, what I would like to see is for fandom to embrace these smaller shows. I hear a lot, why don't we have more comic-centric shows? Why don't we have more? Why doesn't San Diego, just get rid of all those studios that are giving them millions of dollars in order to advertise on the floor? Why doesn't San Diego get rid of them, or Dragon Con, or you name Wizard World, you name the convention, and just make it comic-centric? Well, why don't we embrace that? Let the big cons have the pop culture, mass media experience. But I think smaller conventions also have a chance for fans to interact more one-on-one with creative talent and to maybe embrace that, to maybe start patronizing these smaller conventions and stop making smaller conventions feel the pressure to look like Wizard World. And just just basically find their own identity now.
No one wants to look like Wizard World. Even Wizard World doesn't want to look like Wizard World anymore. Brian's thinking way back. I've heard the last couple of years for Wizard World, they were hoping this virus was coming just so they could be put out of their misery.
And I'm gonna have you dissing my stock like that, man.
You have to admit, Wizard World's not what it was, and it's because they're on their 10th owner. I think they actually get traded at poker games now. That's what happens with Wizard World right now. I got this Wizard World. All right, you can put that in for the $20.
It's a white elephant kind of thing. It's like you open a package. Crap! I got the Wizard World again. Damn it! Next year.
I make a joke about that. I said, by having stock in Wizard, I've joked about it that I'm afraid one day I'm gonna wake up and own the company. And like wake up and just, hey, guess what? I mean, or I'll be the first one to tell me, hey, guess what? Will never let me live it down. You got a show in 2 weeks. Good luck.
Suddenly I'm your guest of honor, right?
Oh yeah, everybody.
I'll say this about Wizard World. They are definitely determined to ruin your expectation for cons. Today's show is brought to you by Wizard World, by the way, or their lawsuits brought against me. I'm not sure which.
I mean, as a stockholder, I'm pretty pissed at you, Rob.
But I went to it. But here's the thing: Wizard World don't come near me. Like I wouldn't know. They don't know how to drive to the East Coast anymore. They don't do anything on the East Coast at all. Not a single show. Reed Pop beat him up.
Yeah, they got beat up out of Florida. I mean, look, if I walk into a town and get beat up, I'm not going to that block anymore either. There's a reason.
I go back and I take the block over. I'm like, no, this white boy is going to win.
See, that's the DMX method. Stop, drop, open up shop. You can't do that.
Welcome to RobCon.
Yeah,
welcome to RobCon. You might not survive, but we'll all enjoy it.
I honestly don't. I mean, guys, being a stockholder, I was watching. I got on my device here. I won't say the name because it'll affect everyone's. But I get a daily stock report, and it shows it to me every 10 minutes on a rotation. And one day it was up to 250, and I quickly sold. I sold a bunch of it. I still have some, but I sold a bunch of it. It was down to, what was it, Rob? 10 cent, 11 cent. When I seen 250, I said, "Oh my goodness, let me get some of that sweet cheddar."
I relate. I used to own Marvel Comics stock before they declared bankruptcy. So yeah, I feel it, man.
We should have all bought when they declared bankruptcy. We'd be millionaires now. Josh, introduce yourself. Welcome to the program, The Madhouse.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing how this discussion is going to go today.
So far off the rails. Tell them where they can find you.
Guys, you can find me at Art of Josh Lyman, primarily on Instagram and Facebook, and soon to be artofjoshlyman.com.
All right. So we're talking about, and it just went off the rails right away because Brian brought up Wizard World, and everyone who's done a Wizard World has that, ooh, Wizard World. I defended Wizard World for a little while, and I got beat up. I would show up on my messenger to be like 5 guys. What are you doing talking about Wizard World?
I'll send you up, man.
Don't you ever say something nice about Wizard World. I'm like, I'm sorry. Stop hitting me.
Like, how dare you? Yes.
I thought it was a good con. It was good when I saw it in New York. What was that, 10 years ago, Rob? I'm sorry. And it was really 10 years ago. I didn't realize it. So, Varian, it's your turn. What would you like to see cons change? And I'll put it out there. Do you think it's going to be 2-3 years before we actually see regular cons resume? Or do you think they've permanently been changed, like Brian is saying?
I think, look, human greed will snap that back to what it was very quickly. Now, it doesn't mean that the people are going to necessarily come back. I'm more optimistic that it'll be 2 years before 3. I'm thinking 2022 we're gonna see some normalcy return. Before then, I'd be afraid. I don't think it's gonna happen before then. My concern, though, and this might be going a little bit too far and overstepping. My concern, though, is that these smaller shows are going to realize, hey, we're the only game in town. Let's raise our prices. And
well, you know about MegaCon. You remember? MegaCon is now like MegaCon chic. I still haven't heard from them. I actually got to look at it. Remember, they're making the mini MegaCon
limited edition.
Exclusive. Come get it now. It's begun. They've figured out right away. And this is a bunch of people sitting in an office going, well, how do we make a nut this year? Here's what we do. We get rid of half of these people who smell bad. We limit them to 25,000, as a matter of fact. We charge all the more money because no one will be doing a show. And we just push this through because that Florida governor, he'll let anything go. We just have to convince him it's an essential service. And the Floridians will show up. Because they're like, I done spent my beer money. I'm gonna go.
I would say they're Floridians. So.
Yep. So I'll be there selling my.
Not typically the accent I hear in Orlando, but all right.
I'll be like this. Here's your books.
Welcome to
Perfect time for us all to
InfectaCon.
cosplay.
Welcome to Quarantine Con, where everyone's wearing quarantine suits.
Who are you? I'm Spider-Man.
Again, 2022. Yeah, 2022 before they're back to full capacity, I think, or normalcy.
So, Josh, what do you think?
Well, I think Varian touched it on the head there. I've been discussing this for probably the last month or so. It's like this is going to be it's going to be a rebound situation where yes, there may be some shows that come in early and do their smaller shows and things like that, but this is going to impact next year financially as well. For any shows that have postponed for this year, people will still go. They'll spend a little less money, but they're also going to be like, well, we got this next one in 6 months versus a year. So just from the pure financial side of things, it's going to be an interesting year or two because people aren't going to be used to their normal, hey, I save up every year just so I can go to this Comic-Con, or this pop culture event. And so the practical side of me has evolved and adapted, but it's just one of those things where it's like, I already know next year is going to be radically different. And there's a lot of people who are trying to be very positive about it. But at the same time, you just have to adapt and see who survives and, what positive things these events can do to help encourage everyone to come back to them.
I personally, I don't know. If everything goes as it's supposed to go the rest of the year, I personally see the bigger problem being that everyone's moving into the winter months. That's just going to be first off, even in the fall, we have the issue with the third wave. Even the scientists are saying it might go away for the winter. I mean, the summer, but it'll be back for the winter. So moving your con right into that season is problematic. Anyone who's done a show in November or December knows how pointless it is to do a show in November or December. There's never a lot of money in those shows. You actually want to be home creating, especially by November. Even down here in November, the shows don't make a lot of money. They struggle. You go hang out with your friends for the last time in the year and hope you break even and cover your costs for the weekend is basically what you're doing. You don't travel out of state in November. But now you've got Awesome Con. You got, I think Emerald City is pushing into one of them areas. And, and it's funny because the warm weather show, Miami, they decided not to do Reed Pop, but put it off till 2021, which makes no sense to me. While they're trying to do it in Emerald City Comic Con, I think it was August, but they said now it's going to get delayed until later because California is having a problem, and because California is Washington, they're basically cousins. And if one's doing one, the other one. So word was, last I heard, they're thinking about a November date, and I'm like, do you guys even stop and look at a calendar and realize that you're going to go against Black Friday? Like, you're not going to win. No one's thinking about getting your stuff. They want to get all the Black Friday stuff when everyone goes crazy and beats each other up for TVs. Yet the better prices are during Super Bowl, kids. That's right. You're overpaying on Black Friday for that TV. I bet you didn't know that, but you are. Get your TVs during Super Bowl. They're cheaper, kids.
Can't take them back.
Much more boring for that is they're basically just replacing for the new model with the new cars.
Did you guys see what Walmart did with the arcade games? $50 they clearance them off at. Those are arcade one-up machines.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They clearance them up. They clearance a lot of them out for $50. One guy even got away with some Gallagher machines for $1. His Walmart clearance them out for $1.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I
Not
guarantee you he's going to be at a Comic Con soon.
yeah, not the Marvel one and not the Ninja Turtle one, but everything else $50. Mine had the price tags. I missed it, but you know,
We'll just see when people start doing the hacks for those systems. We'll
Oh,
start
yeah.
putting more systems on them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I already know people doing that here in Austin, but
I
I'm not going to put them out on blast.
I do think Varian's got some solid points, as does Carl, that there's this any good con is going to try their hardest to be out there. We're also going to have a lot of bad operators, like Varian said, who are going to run out and just try to do these shows because no one else is doing it. I'll be the first one. Who cares what happens? You know? So let's talk about bad operators. And I know that, Varian, you wanted to kind of touch on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's going to be people who are going to jump up and do shows. You know, just because they think, okay, well, there's less shows now, so I can do one. You're going to have people doing shows, I feel, that will not be sanctioned. People are going to take right now. We got people right now who are out of money because show promoters are refusing to give their money back.
Hotels, too.
Yeah, hotels. But you know, and the hotels, you know, that's a whole nother topic for a different show. But as far as the promoters are concerned, there are promoters who are using any excuse in the book to not give their money back. Oh, well, you know, I formed an LLC. It's now closed up because, you know, this has destroyed us. Sorry about your money. I'm not giving it back. I'm out. And I think they're going to have, again, they're going to see people do that. They're going to jump up, make their own shows, and get the money, swear that the show is going down. It's going to happen no matter what. And then 2-3 weeks before that time, say, hey, sorry, guys, the governor said this, and it totally killed my company, my LLC. So I'm not refunding any money. I would be hesitant to pay anything to a new promoter. I hate to say this. It sounds like gatekeeping, I know. But I'd be hesitant to pay anything to a new promoter up front this year, maybe next year.
Yep.
Until I know the show is going to happen.
And let's piggyback off that, and let's put a few things out there. First off, the bigger shows all have insurance. That's why they're happy to shuffle. They're playing a shuffle game because they're getting paid, and they're going to make their money, at least their investment back. A lot of the bigger shows, the smaller shows, to be fair, have no insurance plans. They are getting screwed by this. A lot of them are going out of business. And you got to kind of sort of accept that. And some of them aren't wrong, but it's the way that you dress it. You know, like we were just reading before the air, one of the best places I took my son was Sweet Tomato. I love Sweet Tomato. I'll tell you this, it went out of business. I started already packing and deciding to go move somewhere because I no longer like where I live because it was like the only thing I had down here. So that's how big it was to me. They closed. I have a gift card. I'm at $150. They put out a message. It was a very honest one. Thank you so much for the emotional outpouring. There's nothing we can do. We've lost a lot of money. We don't have a plan to give back gift cards. You're going to have to go to court. They weren't mean about it. They were honest. This is what it is. But like you said, there are promoters right now going out there being like, well, you don't understand how this has ravaged me. Yes, I get it because you have my money. And because you have my money, I can't now make rent. So yes, I get it. Where did all that money go, though? Why aren't you able to get that money back right now? Where did all that go?
I'm sorry. I know I'm stepping over one of these guys here, but a lot. I mean, I understand from the promoters aspect as well that they have a situation where maybe the venue charges them a little bit more money than they normally would because they hear the word Comic-Con. They think, okay, this is going to be big. I'm going to raise prices. Sometimes they got to put up money ahead of time. To secure the facility, they got to put up money ahead of time. Some of these facilities are not canceling yet. They're saying, "Oh no, we're still good. We're still good. Don't worry. That's June. We'll handle that in June." But they don't. What those people don't understand is that Josh, myself, you, Brian, we've not just invested in their show. We've invested in 6 or 7 other shows. So we've got money out there. So yeah, I'm gonna give you 200, but take that 200 and times it by 5. That's why I'm so upset. And then Josh, you know, to come to a show in Michigan, he's got to make travel plans. He's in Texas. So he's got to make travel plans. You're playing with him 3 weeks out, all of a sudden, okay, sorry, we're not doing the show. By then, he's booked his plane ticket to get the best rate he could. So now he's not of more money, and then they wonder why you're so upset. Why is the guy not? Why is he so full of rage? You know, he's missed. He's out of money, and he's missed his whole. He's missed 7 shows. This is the 8th one now.
Yeah, and that's a good point. They're canceling one show. We've lost several shows. You only had one. And every one of you always tell us, oh, well, I don't do this for money. I do this for my love and my passion. Good, fuck you. You don't do it for money. Give me back my fucking money. I'm glad you don't do it for money. Good, give me. And again, if a place took your money, then they had insurance. They're supposed to give you back your money. This is a government order. They can't get around it. So these people are getting back their money from the venues unless they're making deals with the venues. And I guarantee you some of these people are closing LLCs damn well knowing that they can pick it up on the other end a year from now under a new LLC and make more money later. They are definitely playing checkers on our back and bouncing us off, knowing that we don't really, whatever, they're just vendors. So I do think we have to step up as a community. And I'm using that word as a local area for those of us who are in those areas where we're getting screwed, or the people going to those particular shows as vendors have to form a community to hold these people accountable. If we see them back in 2021, where's my table? Do not let up. Do not stop. This has to become litigation. We can't allow this to. Yeah, it's one thing to let Sweet Tomato go, and trust me, I'll be paying attention. If I can get my money back during the liquidation, I will get my money back on my gift cards, or at least a part of it. That's our job now. It doesn't matter. Maybe we'll get 50% of it. 50% still better than 0, right?
Yep.
I tracked down one promoter for weeks, hounding him. I had other people hound him. I got a table at his event. I did my thing. I made my money, and I'll never go back and do business with him again. And now I don't shit talk him. I do something worse. Do you know what's worse than shit talking a person, guys?
Ignoring them completely.
No, telling the truth about them. Telling everyone who they are and saying, I can back it up. I have people who will vouch for what I'm saying. You do that, it hurts a career a lot more than shit talking a person. So I completely agree with you. And I think the attitude of promoters has always been shitty. To be honest with you, there are a few that are amazing. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely love the good ones. But more of them got into this because there was money. And now that the money's gone, we're seeing their fucking true colors.
Yeah. I mean, you look at, I know Josh has probably done a few convention exclusives. I just got to talking to an artist today who told me that he turned in the convention exclusive cover as promised back in January before this got nuts. And last week, on the week during the weekend, actually received an email saying, hey, you know what? Can't use your art. Not paying you. You know. Now, here's the thing. The guy said, I can't use your art. I'm not paying you. This artist feels that because the promoter used the art on their website and on their Facebook and, you know, on what are the lanyards that and some people already have those lanyards that the artwork has been used. You canceling the show does not mean that he doesn't get paid for that artwork. That's the way he feels. I mean, and that's another conversation, I guess, for another day. But
no, it fits because this goes back to the ethics of these promoters. First off, you told if I go to Josh and I go, Josh, I need you to make this art. This is the terms. Do you agree to these terms? Hold on. Don't heckle until you hear the whole thing. Josh says yes. He does all the work, and then I don't pay him. Why is that okay? Because if we made Josh a plumber and he fixed everything, and then then there was a fire at my house the next week, am I allowed to not pay him? No, I still have to pay him. Services rendered, right, Josh?
Yep.
Like, have you ever had that happen to you, where someone's like, "Oh, I can't use it now, and I'm not paying for it"?
I've had it where people have used it and not paid it, and that's another kettle of fish for another day. But it's kind of screwy. Like in this particular example, I do believe that if they've used it and they've manufactured product, then they should just push it forward. Give it that person give them, a table or give them something for when the event kicks off again. But if it's been canceled and permanently canceled for no end, unfortunately, it's much like your, the soup place. You're going to have to go and say bye-bye to it. It's just like Juicy Reds or whatever. It's just going to be one of those things where, unfortunately, that's life. Comic books in themselves, regardless of conventions, are not a high-paying job to begin with. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but most of the time we go to the conventions not only for exposure, but to also help supplement the income while we're creating these books. And I think a lot of people sometimes forget that. They think, oh, this is the only way I can make my money. And, we just need to find a way to expand on that. And, that's when you suddenly rely on only one source of income, only conventions or only doing convention exclusives. I don't know. I just feel like it causes more issues than not, as far as that's concerned. I've had an instance where I did an exclusive for a table. I actually did 2 exclusives last minute because somebody else bailed, and then I was supposed to get a booth for that in trade. And at the end of the event, the owner of the show actually came up to me and asked me for the full cost of my booth. Because he hadn't sold enough and to make his guarantees for all of his celebrities. So, and that was prior to all of the cancellations and things like that. So I've been on multiple spectrums of this. I ended up paying him because it was a professional thing, but at the same time, the person who organized me doing those exclusives at the last minute failed to reach back out to me for about 3 weeks after, because I was very angry. But I apologize. Minor segue there. And it's like I've definitely been on the screwed end of that, regardless of cancellations because of pandemics. But if you don't mind, a quick question. So what would you guys want to say would be a positive thing that we could look forward to when it comes to these particular people that run events? Like what would be something that you guys would say would be a positive? Like for me, it's a simple thing, but it's like, hey, I would love to have at my Comic-Con, I'd love to have a trash can every single time. It's a little thing, but for me, it's just like, hey, what's so hard about doing that? Or
Trash cans would be nice.
Sending me an email when you make a cancellation instead of just leaving it on the front page of your website 4 times instead of notifying any of your vendors.
I just think it's funny that everybody here in this chat in this chat right now, face lit up when we heard trash cans at the table. People who take that kind of like, why are you guys so excited about trash cans? But
give me a trash bag.
Yeah. Anything. Give me like a shopping bag, those little plastic shopping bags so I can put my empty water bottle or something in there. And it's just the little things. Please go ahead, Barry, and then I'll have a point.
I mean, you know what? They could do that. Check on us. I went to a con. They had, and I'm seeing this more and more. And I'm really happy about it. Last year, had a con where they walked through the area. Staff, volunteers and staff walked through with dollies toting ice cold water, snacks, for people at the tabling, not just guests. They actually went down Artist Alley with free bottles of water. It was like a water, and I was impressed and I was very happy with that. Now I was sitting in guest, and guests got a little bit more, but I mean, just that little small nicety that says a lot. And I think I like to see that them caring a little bit more about the people that are attending. I mean, it means that I don't have to get up, go get a drink of water, miss a sale. I mean, throw some trash away, you miss a sale too. I like to see that. I like to see just a little bit more concern with the talent, a little bit more, just being concerned about us and coming through and checking on us and see how we're doing.
Yeah. And that was actually going to be my point, that some of my favorite shows have been where they have enough volunteers or even the promoter coming by and say, hey, listen, can I get you a bottle of water? Can I get, I've got some, I've had, times when they bring by a thing of, candy and fruit, just so you keep your energy up. Or somebody who, like myself, who does a lot of shows by themselves, somebody say, hey, listen, do you have to go to the bathroom? Do you need to take a 5-minute break? I'll watch your booth for you. Just like you said, Varian, just show that you give a damn about the people who are taking time out of their careers to show up at your show and give it a little more gravitas or whatever they're looking for. But yeah, and I've worked some shows where I don't even see the promoter from the minute I get there. Of course, I have a rule that when I have a show like that, the promoter won't see me next time. So, but that's me because I'm old and cranky. But yeah, I think just a little more care towards not just guests but vendors as well, and even make the attendees feel a little welcome. Go through and say, hey, I'm running the show. You having a good time? Just press the flesh a little. Be a little bit of a politician. Just let people know that they are really grateful that folks are showing up to the venue. So, and then there's a lot of other things like, but a lot of it just stems for me, just be better at your job. Communication is key. If I have to go to the promoter's personal website to find out that they're melting down, that's, that shouldn't be my job. You should be telling me that you're having problems, and maybe we can all do something to help out. We're promote it a little more on our ends or whatever. But but I think just showing a little more love to the people attending, whether they pay to be there or they're asked to be there, is I think would be a great step forward to some conventions.
I'd go with organization. I think they all do a shitty job at organizing. They act like they're putting a fucking rocket in space. It's not that hard, guys. There are supermarkets. Just go to a fucking supermarket for 5 minutes. Walk around and understand layouts. Understand why things are done a certain way. Understand why things are put together. Understand that a parking lot and bringing people in is very easy to arrange. You could just do it by aisle. How cool would that be? This aisle, this table gets this time, this time, this time, this time. You can't make your window. We can bump you, but we'll put someone else in there. Yes, it's extra work, but that's what you're getting money for. Do your job. You have months to organize this type of situation. Plus, allow creators to sit next to each other. I don't understand why any creator just does not have an open thing. These tables are open. Where would you like to do? Go look at Ticketmaster. They do the same thing so people can sit next to each other. Believe it or not, that could really help your show. Stop acting like you're doing us a public service in curing cancer and start living up to the job that you're supposed to do and put on a damn good event. And stop kissing celebrities' ass the entire time and walk downstairs to Artist Alley, to the vendors, to all the people working their ass off on the floor, keeping all those thousands of people entertained while you're trying to buddy up to someone to make it seem like you're important. You're not. You paid them to be there. Understand me. You pay anyone enough, they'll show up. That's why you always hear jokes about like Mariah Carey singing at the billionaire daughter's 16th, Sweet 16. They don't care. They'll take the money, show up and smile, and then never call you again. You're not friends. They don't care about you. But you could make us care about you. You could make everyone on Artist Alley talk about how great that show is. And we could be, and the vendors could talk about it. And if you make a crafts alley, they'll be so appreciative that you're building something that is amazing. Stop trying to be a celebrity fucker. We all know you're doing it. That's what remember, you're running it. You're not there to hang out. How many times have you guys seen these people walking around, especially at the end of the show, like at the end of the night where they're like, oh, if you don't leave now, we won't be held responsible for what happens to you. You're already setting the audience into a bad mood at that point. It's unprofessional. You don't, it's very nice to say, hey, listen, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Very simple bartender goodbye. Sorry, guys, we'll open back up. No, if you don't leave now, we're letting the dogs out. Do you want people to start? Like, I've heard that and I've stopped and I'm like, how are you going to get me out? And mind you, I'm a vendor, so I have my vendor's badge because from Artist Alley. I'm like, how are you going to get me out? I don't see any security with you. And they'll be like, what? And I'm like, see, when you talk that way, you make people upset. These are the people who are going to be buying from me tomorrow. Please don't do that again. Because they're going to now have a bad attitude when they come in tomorrow because you threaten them. God damn, do we have to have this talk?
Well,
I'm the manager off. I'm always going to be the manager.
I think, Rob, with that, what happens is that the promoters probably need to speak to the convention itself because most of the time convention execs, they do, or the convention promoter, they do speak. They can speak to them and say, "Hey, when your security comes in, please usher people out."
Often
Politely.
it's people wearing their shirts that aren't security, dude. It's their lackeys, the volunteers. Because here's the thing: at the end of the night, all the big wigs have gone to the parties with the celebrities, and they're letting the lower tiers close out the first couple nights shows because they're setting things up because they're so important. No, you're not that goddamn important. Your job is to make sure the show runs smoothly. Every hiccup is your fault. I don't care if it's not your fault. Accept it is your fault. And be there to fix it. And if you're going to leave someone competent. When you have people walking around threatening, if I'm having someone tell me a story that's going to take them 2 minutes to wrap up, and they just bought something for me, you go, "Excuse me, just so you know, we're closing up right now. As soon as you're done, could you just, come join us tomorrow?" How fucking hard is that to be genuine and nice to people? I'm sorry, that to me means a lot. Just treating people good because you want them back the next day. Because I've seen it the next day, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. That after people get kicked out the wrong way, you'll hear a couple people the next day growling about it. Like, what was that last night? Why would they say that? And I heard people actually telling me that without prompting them. Like, how do you like the show? Well, I didn't like getting rushed out of here last night that way.
Yeah, they could just scream fire. That'll get people that might as well at that point. I can understand that.
Just for him saying it.
I can understand people feeling that way. I mean, that's uncalled for if you're being rude. But we've been kicked out. We've been kicked out. I did want to ask something. I think it was Josh's point. With these cons, also another nice thing they could do is use Josh. Josh is coming to your show, especially if he's local. Use Josh, promote Josh. And our creator will be so slobberingly happy with you if you're promoting them. Hey, we got Josh Lyman coming in. He's doing this exclusive print. Josh, you do this print that we're going to give away or we're going to make available for $10. We'll give you $50 off your table. We'll give you $60 off your table. Josh is going to take the deal. He's going to do it. And he'll be happy, and then you're promoting him. He's happy now. Josh feels wanted. Variant feels wanted. Brian feels wanted. We're all coming to that show. Rob's going to come, and he's going to definitely set up Cat Dad and Supermom if you're promoting him at that show. And these are people right in your backyard. You're not going to have to. I don't really understand. He will still pay for his table if you give him a discount. Not like that celebrity artist. I know no dig against celebrity artists, but that celebrity artist that you have to fly in. You gotta buy his food. You gotta put him up. You gotta give him a free table. You're losing all around. All somebody here is asking for is maybe a little discount. Maybe, and I'm not saying don't treat us that good, but a discount here and there, promotion here and there definitely goes a long way. Now, these promoters might learn that pretty soon when, you get some of these celebrities who say, "I'm not coming to Comic Cons. It's still way too dangerous." Well, how are you going to do photo ops? We have social distancing. I can't put my arm around you. Forget that. And we're gonna have to wear a mask. You want a mask? You want to take a picture of Megan Fox in a mask? No, I want everyone that is Megan Fox. She's got a mask on. You can't tell.
I'll wear a mask and tell everyone I'm Megan Fox, and I could really make out here.
Oh yeah, that could work. That could work. Yeah.
Might have to cut off a little bit of your thumb just for just to extra validation, but
Whatever it takes, Josh. Whatever it takes. I'm there for the fans.
You learn about celebrities. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I feel like I maybe am desensitized to the concept of some of these things just because of repetition of doing all of these shows. But because I've been on all the different things that Varian's discussed and everyone else, just basics of, hey, just have some common courtesy when talking to people, get them to leave. I've been a guest through pay. I've been a guest through discount. I've, back and forth off and on. I've got a couple of shows in Texas that use me in their photos and presentation because I try to make my table look good, or I always go to the charity art auction. But sometimes they don't even tell me that they're using it. They just pop it up, and next thing I know, I'm getting tagged by somebody going, "Look, you're here!" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not signed up for that show this year, so I don't know what to tell you." And that's that's part of more and more the paperwork side of what's coming into Comic Cons. When you're signing things, we're like, hey, you're agreeing as soon as you walk in that we can take whatever photos we want, and they don't have to ask you. You know, media doesn't have to ask you either, and so on and so forth. I do agree that it'd be nice if more shows did focus on the locals. However, I do counter to that and find that there's a level of pretentiousness that I have found with local artists. I don't care if you're in Ohio. I don't care if you're in Salt Lake. I don't care if you're in Chicago. There's a level of unearned bravado that just makes me want to do the similar things that Rob wants to do to people telling you have to leave immediately. Like instantly rebel and go, so who are you again? In front of people. So I think as a whole, Comic-Cons, depending on where you are in the country, they change radically. There's one I do in Utah that, you know, when you're talking about, hey, why don't we do the Ticketmaster thing? They send out months in advance and go, hey, choose your spot. Wizard World up until earlier this year, they were doing, hey, you pick your spot, you pick your top 5 every single show. It'd be like, okay, you got 24 hours to respond to us, and you had to be first come, first serve. So you had to have that thing on lockdown. They've abandoned that model since then. But at the same time, it's because they keep rotating their staff. I will say that one thing I would like is to have a well-informed staff. That's not just one person. When you're dealing with thousands of people or hundreds of people that are all artists or hundreds of people that are all vendors, if you're able to make it so that you're not just relying on one person, and when that one person disappears and you have to replace them, I think that is a very heavy source of things that people need to focus on. Being an event coordinator or, you know, vendors or artists or whatever have you. If you have a team of 4 or 5 people, if one person leaves, you're not just left in the lurch and having to learn somebody new. And then us as the buyers of tables or even the guest of aren't sitting there going, so who do I contact? Who do I talk to? I lost a guest partnership after they basically they just everybody went and found new jobs. And they were like, hey, we're struggling. We're figuring out what to adapt. And I was like, hey, let me know. And I tried to reach out to all of the executives for about 2.5, 3 months. No word. Next thing I know, I discover once again through their website that they've canceled all of those promotions and events. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and stay where I'm at for the next month and a half. Let me work on some stuff. I'm not coming to the event because, you know, otherwise that wasn't my plan. But yeah, I think just in general, it'd be nice if people figured out how to, you know, be slightly more organized and distribute the responsibility. I understand, of course, that some of these people do it for volunteering, but a lot of these people are getting paid, and sometimes it doesn't pay well. But if you distribute that, it makes it a lot easier for everybody, at least in my opinion.
I would like to see all as well a little bit more synergy between the various convention promoters. That'd be nice.
Let me interrupt you real quick, Brian, for 2 reasons. First off, how come fucking promoters don't know what an email is or don't know how to use emails? I don't understand. You could train your entire crew via email, giving them information and literally saying you will be tested on the first day, especially with these bigger events, because they sign up months in advance. There's plenty of time to take tutorials. And second, and more importantly, we bring it on the one, the only Randy Zimmerman. And that's right, Varian reminded me that you're a promoter yourself and you belong on the panel. I had put it in our network chat, but Varian's like, no, bring Randy in. He'll have some real world value for this panel. So
not this year.
Well, we said that at the very beginning of this. We're talking about 2021.
Yeah.
At best 2021. It's even been floated 2022 is really when we'll go back to doing cons. And if you're
Comics,
looking at
Cons.
cons.
Conventions. He was looking at the headline for the show. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I tried fixing it. Didn't totally fix. I don't know why.
No, we might be back to it in the fall, but it's going to be weird.
Well, that's what I said. You're going to see a lot of cash grabs like MegaCon. It's exclusive, boutique MegaCon. You know, I don't think we'll see the huge shows this year. I think the huge shows will be pushed off. It'll be the moment when they allow baseball to be in a stadium full of people. wrestling to be in a stadium full of people, Comic Cons will be back. Until that moment, we won't see a Comic Con. So sports will be our ticket back to actually having Comic Cons, believe it or not. And they're going to try to come back sooner than later.
I'm trying to be the optimist here.
Oh, I'm with you. It's fucked up this year.
I seen Josh's hand go up. You want to say something, Josh?
Oh yeah, just super quick. I wanted to talk for what Rob and Varian were talking about, like emails and promoters working with each other in a slightly more cooperative fashion. Yeah. And it actually coincides with what Rob was saying about we're not seeing any of the larger shows. Like right now, I currently only have one more show scheduled for this year. And it was one of the larger shows of the year, and they just lost a lawsuit with San Diego Comic-Con last year. So unfortunately, the reason I bring that up is because this is going to be an ego situation for that show. And I'm saying that with as much reverence as I can, because I do love going to that show and I love my fan base there. But the organizers purposely did some stuff, basically like pulling a Burger King food truck into the middle of a McDonald's parking lot to get people's attention. And fast forward, they're the only large show of the year that hasn't canceled officially yet. And when it comes to promoters scheduling and organizing and trying to figure out what works for them and what works for other people, sometimes they are petty. There's an event that's near me that actually has started up because this guy didn't like the experience he had at one of the larger shows, and he's purposely made it his mission that he wants to take down every other show in his city. And he's very, very open about it on Rate That Comic-Con and things like that, to the point that I refuse to attend his shows because of this person's ego and this person's personality, and refusing to work with people and saying, hey, good luck, finding a location, or waiting until a show announces their dates and then purposely scheduling a week or two before that show.
I do want to.
Unfortunately, convention runners, I have discovered, if they aren't distributed between a large group of people or have a board that they have to respond to, there's a large ego. They just go, well, I'm the main runner and I'm the one who decides what's martial law and what's God.
And that's a good point, Josh. I just want to point out, Josh didn't mean that other big shows are canceled. That's the only show on his thing for those lists.
Yeah, on mine. I mean, I can't think of a single other show on the list right now that's still active. Can you?
No, Raleigh is still active. That's at the end of July. Raleigh Galaxy Con is still potentially.
Really?
Tampa Bay Comic Con is still technically on the books. New York Comic Con, Baltimore Comic Con.
Tampa Bay is also Fan Expo.
No, Tampa Bay is not Fan Expo. They are
Fan Expo.
No. They're the other ones.
MegaCon Tampa Bay.
No, they're not owned together. Who is it? It's you have it's like Aquarium or something like that.
Imaginarium?
Yes. They own.
Yeah, the Imaginarium. Okay.
Oh, that Tampa Bay show. Okay, so
yeah, you're thinking about Tampa Bay Mega, which is not happening. That has been canceled too, but quietly, because it was never announced.
I would say that when it comes to the synergy, that and Randy talked about this, that promoters do not talk to each other. I mean, they do have Facebook groups, and we can all create those where we talk to each other and say, hey, I'm going on this date. Do you but just you're gonna have a lot of people now trying to push their dates. Well, I'm going in fall. I gotta get a show in this year, and they just keep bumping into each other. And we're gonna need synergy, not just this year if we can return in the fall, but for the next couple of years. We're gonna need these promoters to actually get together and try to figure out how to place their shows. There's no need having the show at the local convention center, and then next week you got another one that was a mile or two away just because you want to have your show.
I didn't know that you were part of the Communist Party.
Well, I did join up recently.
Yeah, the capitalism dictates that no, this should be Armageddon for shows. This should be them all fighting for what the best one is. Let the victors come out on top. Let have, this is purge for Comic Cons. That's all it is. Let's see who shows up in 2021.
But
Well,
don't
I
you
will
think?
say,
Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Barry.
I was gonna say, isn't it hard for like, okay, so Josh, we're not gonna give your money back, but we're gonna give you this show. We push our show to October 18th. We'll see. I don't know what October 18th is, but we're gonna push the show to
My
October
birthday.
18th. And then so yeah, now it's his birthday. He's got to go do a show on his birthday. But guess what just happened? The other show he was scheduled to go at, they just pushed it to October 18th as well. Zero synergy between these people. Now he's extra stressed because now he's got to either try to get his money back for that show or pick which show he wants to go to, which has the best fan base. He's gonna be screwed.
Varian, who lied to you when you were a child and said life is fair? Because you have obviously had an easier life than I have.
Well, they don't call me the silver spooner for nothing. I mean,
Like, come on, dude, seriously. This is what independent creators deal with all the time. We always get shows bumped in them. Is it fair? No. But you guys got to be honest. You'd like to see less shows next year, but better shows that live up to a mark. You got to give Reed Pop credit. They put on a damn good show. They really do. Hats off to them. Randy, I've heard good things about your show. Daytona out here, Daytona Beach Comic Con gets rave reviews. I've only heard good things about Baltimore except for a small group, and that small group all seems to be attached to each other, and they're all complaining. So that says something when it's one little group complaining about Baltimore. And I can go down a list of some other great shows, but I hope, as a matter of fact, why don't you all shout out a show that you know does the right thing? And even my local small Fort Myers show, Space Coast, which I don't understand why she uses Space Coast because we're not on the Space Coast, but she calls herself the Space Coast Comic Con. She does a great job. It doesn't bring in huge numbers, but it's a great vibe in the show. So Brian, give us a couple good shows. Give us a shout out. Let's show some love. We've shown negativity.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I'll give some shout out to Cape Con and Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Ken Murphy always treats everyone there like they're a member of his family, and I really like that. Heroes for Kids, I like the fact that this is only the second year they've been going on having their show. They're in Southeast Missouri. But they give a part of a couple of local or a national charity for children, and then a more local one. Just flipping through my book here, Kokomo Con, also the same way. The guy who runs that, Sean D. Hilton, is a huge supporter of independent creators, and he's really good about that. Silcon in Central Illinois, it's kind of a half creative, half paranormal convention, but Becky Guyman always does a great job of promoting it and making everyone feel involved and part of the thing. And they check on you, and they always treat me like a god who strides the earth. So that always helps.
Very nice. Come on, Brian, pass it. We're gonna do
it. Brian, what do you say?
First one that comes to mind is obviously a Randy show. Hosted and controlled by Monica Zimmerman, who does everything. She does everything, so it's not so much.
It's okay. She can't hear you right now.
She does everything for that show. No, Randy show does a really good job on one of the first shows that I've seen where they actually had people come out and unload your car for you, pull it into the convention center, and that was cool because you don't have to. You're not taking a bunch of boxes and bringing them in yourself. C4 up in Traverse City, Michigan. Pat Koala, Rob. Is it Rob Humphrey? Rob Humphrey. I'm forgetting names right now.
And don't they have the Gary Reed Award?
They do have the Gary Reed Award. It was the it was the Shell Dorf Award at first, and then Gary Reed passed and was renamed in his honor to the Gary Reed Award. But again, as far as a show that's really it cares about their talent and the people who are coming to the show, that's another good show. And Space, which is in Columbus, Ohio. another show that I like doing every year. And for me, I was told early on it was a rite of passage show. Now it's just a habit that I go there every year. So those are the three shows that come to mind for me. That's done by Bob Corby out of Columbus, Ohio. And that's a show that just focuses just on independent stuff. I was shocked. I went there a couple years ago and I seen an artist selling IP prints, and Rob would have flipped out if he would have seen it. Thank God Rob wasn't there. But if he'd seen it, he would have been pounding the table. It was horrible. I don't know. Those are my picks. How about yours, Josh?
I mean, it will always change depending on where I am and the size of the show. I think the first ones that typically come to mind, ironically, I do this one show every single year in the beginning of the year, January, in Laredo, Texas. And it's a very, very small show. It's basically in the recreational cafeteria of this college. And, it's very low key, but I know everybody who runs the show and all their volunteers, and I see them every single year. And the people that are there, they're very loyal. And yes, they may jump to whoever the new artist is, but they come back. I've got fans from 3 or 4 or 5 years ago at this point. And I really enjoy going to that just for that. It's a little thing, but in contrast, I really don't like having people touch my stuff. It's just one of those things where it's like I kind of have a system and I don't want to risk it, but I've got cases now, so it's like occasionally I may be carrying 4 cases simultaneously because I've bungeed them together. But holding a door is, it's a great feature. I was talking about Salt Lake for goods and bads, but honestly, I'd say for me, Salt Lake, I like, there's little consistencies, like knowing every single year I either have to go to the back of the room or the front of the room when I get there, and then getting my advanced choosing of my space. It's just one of those little things where it's like I know where I'm going to need to go and get things sorted. And it's for me the town, because I know what restaurants I'm going to. I'm like, tonight we're going here, tonight we're going here, and tonight we're going here. And after that, it's like, all right, I've gotten my checklist off, and once again, it's fans. But to be perfectly honest, most other shows really change depending on my favorites, depending on what I go in there for. If I'm going in there to sell prints and be the pop culture aficionado, then that's a radically different headset than when I go to a show and it's going to be originals and comic book art. Like, it depends on the experience every single time. So, but those two are probably up there on my top 2. Randy?
And for me, the last probably 4 or 5 years, I've only done 2 shows other than the ones that I've thrown. And that's because they're with old friends, and I know that they put on an awesome show. And that's the Great Lakes Con in February in Warren. I believe it's in Warren, right, Varian?
It is.
Warren, Michigan, and the Grand Rapids Con that Mark Hodges throws every year. I've done every Grand Rapids Con since he started, and it's always a fun. Both of them really are always fun and well-coordinated shows. So.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll say this. We're going to be talking on Friday about the future of the comic book industry, and I can't wait to hear what people are thinking about our industry now, because we're at a restart point where anything goes. New ideas are welcome. Do you think that there are actually Comic Con, I should say, promoters who are kind of shitting themselves as us creators are learning how to make money without Comic Cons? We're learning, again, necessity is the birth of innovation or something like that. And right now, we're kind of learning how we can do things in a different way. Even Diamond learned the hard fact that you're not that important. You're not too big to fail. There are other people who are more than happy to do your job if you're unwilling to show up for work. So do you think some of these comic promoters are suddenly like, oh, because we've learned we don't necessarily need to pay $350 to make. Because think about it. I sit at home. I don't pay for a table. I'm able to raise $1,600 on Kickstarter in 19 days.
I think the crappy con promoters are worried. I mean, that's one less crappy con you might have to you can cut off your list now. So I mean, I'd be concerned about that if I was running a con that I know wasn't giving my attendees and my people who buy tables from me the most bang for the buck, then I'd be concerned. But if I'm a larger show and I know that I get a nice audience in there, we're all looking for audiences. We're all looking for somebody who's going to come in and purchase our products. And not all those people are on Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Not all of them are there. So being able to physically put the book in someone's hand or the print in someone's hand, it goes a long way. But I think if you're running a crappy show, maybe you are sweating a little bit right now.
I have to say that if you're running a crappy show, you're probably not caring.
I will ask this.
What your vendor does. I'm sorry, Josh.
No, go ahead. What your vendor does. No, please.
Yeah, if you're running a crappy show, you really don't matter what your vendor does as long as your vendor pays for his table and you can bring people through the door. So that's the whole of it. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I think my only real concern for this year is, I don't know if you guys, I'm surprised we didn't bring it up before. I've gotten probably at least a dozen different people trying to start up quickie shows in hotels and things like that as the first Comic-Con of the year past quarantine, yada, yada, trying to get that quick money from artists and vendors who are struggling. And I've done some deep searches on a few of these guys and never heard of them before, never seen their events. You know, just little things. I don't know about you guys. I've seen a lot of it. Especially
all you have to do is watch a video, Josh, and you can make a Comic-Con. It's that simple. Donate $15,000 by getting people to buy your table, get a celebrity who's somewhat known, and then just charge people money and sit back and let anything happen. You too can be a proud Comic-Con promoter. It's how it feels. Honestly, that shit is exactly how it feels. My son could better organize a Comic-Con than some of these Comic-Cons that I've been to in the last 3 years. And he can't even organize his freaking room.
There's always going to be pros and cons when it comes to that too. Like, we all sit there and we go, well, this is how I would run it, or I would definitely make sure that there were no people that were stealing other people's art, or this or this, and we'd have a juried panel and we make sure that people that got along were all next to each other, and so on and so forth. You know, but it's one of those things where best laid plans of mice and men are doomed to fail.
All right, well, let's talk fundamentals then, Josh. Let's get down to fundamentals that cons aren't able to hit. And I'll give example, and we can talk about it. Then I want Brian to give an example, Varian to give an example, Josh, and then Randy. Here's my example. How come Comic Cons cannot organize themselves properly? Why are artists mixed with craftspeople, mixed in with vendors, mixed in with cosplayers? If you went to a grocery store that did that, you would never shop at that grocery store again. If you went to a website that did that, you would never shop at that website again. But con after con does this weird thing that makes no sense, and they all copy each other. It's like one person had a bad idea and they all adopted it. I give credit again. Reed Pop has a very well set up, cultivated area, and they do that through all their shows. Credit to Baltimore does the same thing, and recently Daytona added an Artist Alley just for us, and I'm trying to get them to call it Creators Alley, because Artist Alley leads this ambiguous idea of anyone's allowed. You could just create a belt by printing it through your Xerox and taping it on a belt, and now you too are an artist. So that's me. What do you guys think? I mean, that's a basic, right? We could organize these shows better because the fans could actually know what's going on better.
Now, I have to agree with that. I used to be thinking, oh, what the heck if I'm next to a crafter, or what the heck, I'm next to some guy selling T-shirts. But then again, the supermarket analogy is a good one. I'd rather know where my section is and then maybe sift through the other areas, because I do have multiple interests. But yeah, I think that's one thing the convention owners could do a lot better, is maybe and also another thing is, I see a number of cons where the celebrities are put towards the front. You notice when you go into a supermarket, the milk is in the back. The eggs are in the back. The staples are in the back of the store. That way you've got to walk past everything else. And, I need this too. I could use this. This looks good. And so, instead put and notice the air quotes, celebrities in the back of the hall, so that everybody has to go by and at least be exposed to the people who weren't in a movie, say, 50 years ago. third Wookiee from the back or whatever. I just think it levels the playing field at least just a little. And also, while I'm complaining, lower ticket prices, get volume in there, leave some money for the floor. So
that comes down to parking. The parking's out of control. Someone's got to bring that up. If you don't have
parking is out of a lot of places promoters control. It depends on the venue, I would think.
You get robbed on the outside, and they know you're coming. I mean, there's some. It's disgusting.
One of the local cons here, they do a special with the promoters that we can park. The vendors and exhibitors can park $15 all weekend. I mean, when you take into account how much they charge for parking, basically it's like getting a day free. Yeah, I mean, it does go a long way. And $15 for 3 days, that's still pretty cheap because you go down to New York all the time, you're paying for that.
So they got to go up with all your friends to set up your tables. They wouldn't have a convention center anymore. But they've convinced you that they're doing you a favor by charging you less to park in a place that you are essentially renting. Imagine literally renting a house and having to pay every day to park outside of your house.
Well, if you live in a major city, you do pay to park in front of your house, like in Chicago.
You got to pay your monthly permit.
I didn't pay anything. I grew up in New York. We don't pay. We find free parking.
Well, you live in God's country, Rob. What do you say?
We're not in the communist area where we pay for parking like you. I'm just kidding. Of course, there are parking meters everywhere throughout the municipal. But okay, a reasonable price, 15 is not that very, and I'll give you that. There are shows, and Josh knows the ones I'm talking about. It's like $25 to park for a day. Mm-hmm. Fuck is that? I mean, my sister said this. I said, why don't you ever bring the kids and you to the cons? She's like, you don't get it. I have to pay for me. I have to pay for my husband. I have to pay for my 2 kids, and I got to pay for parking. By the time I get inside, it's already $100.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do a show here in Lafayette, Indiana, where they give me a parking pass. It's like $15 per the day. Big deal. That's not that bad comparing, unless you were like going to a major city like New York or Chicago or LA. But just the same, I get a parking pass that lets me stay all day long and even long after the show is over if I want to wander around. And I was at a book show last year where they basically waived the parking fee over 3 days for everyone. So it can happen. Rob, you're just going to the wrong shows.
Yeah, but in fairness, you don't do a lot of major shows, right? The really big
I don't. I choose not to. Seriously,
that seems to be
that's not where my audience is.
To be clear, that's usually only a problem at huge shows. At the smaller shows, I do find parking's either free or very reasonable. And I'm not talking about the smaller or middle-sized ones. I'm talking about, like, even at New York Comic Con, trying to park that weekend, it is ridiculous to get. And they know it. They know you're coming for New York Comic Con. Yeah. You might as well just take mass transit, hide your car in one of the boroughs, and just understand that's the reality of your life now. You are not allowed to use a car. But that's
and I've done C2E2. I understand.
Yeah, it's all right.
I do have a question for Randy. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We weren't doing anything, but go ahead, Varian.
No, but
Randy hasn't said enough.
When it comes to parking, Randy, your FlintCon is working on its second venue. Was there? I know you're parking at FlintCon at the marketplace is free. At the prior location, was it paid parking or was it free, or how did that work?
No, it was on a Saturday. It was always free.
Okay, I just want to know. I never.
It's also always good luck. The shows that I throw are inside of farmers markets, so it's an all-day event with people constantly going in and out. And I charge a very low entrance fee, very low table fee. We're just there to have fun, and as long as I cover my expenses, or more than cover my expenses, actually, it's a successful show. So, especially with it being Saturday, downtown Flint is just as bad as any major city for people fighting over parking spaces. Everybody has their own sign, so-and-so's parking only, but luckily on Saturday that's wide open. Plus everybody's kind enough around the farmers market to allow all of their parking lots to be filled, because they're usually not doing business on Saturday. So I'm very lucky as far as that goes. Same situation with my show up in Saginaw. in that there is a large amount of free parking there for the marketplace, but there's also surrounding businesses that aren't doing business on Saturday that are happy to allow people to park there for the day. So I really don't have that problem.
All right, Brian, fundamental that can be changed, that it's just a fundamental, not a big one, but something you think is a fundamental block that they're missing as con creators out there.
I think one thing that is missing is the realization that even if you aren't a big name creator, you still might have a fandom that will attend the show because they know you're there. And, because granted, I'm not going to pull in the same numbers as a Chris Claremont or a Roy Thomas, but I do have my loyal people, my Nevermorians. They support me well. And I think that a number of conventions need to realize that don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't just promote the A-list celebrity, because even the B-listers may have sufficient following that they could tip the scales whether your show's profitable or not.
Anyone want to jump on that? Anyone have any follow-up?
I think there's a level of oversaturation when it comes to promoting people. If you get to the point where because you have 200 or 300 people that are in your artist alley, your writer's row, creator's corner, etc., people are suddenly going to lose extreme interest. So if you don't plan it properly, that it can actually cause more disinterest than actual interest. Like, yes, it's great if they go, hey, we're going to post, hey, by the way, Brian K. Morris is going to be here. Varian Grant's going to be here. Randy Zimmerman, oh yeah, and that Indie Devil guy that, he's no longer the Indie Devil. He's the Comic Devil. Yeah, it's great. But if you post all 5 of them on the same day, or you post them once, it becomes, I don't know. It feels like that commercial that you see 20 times when you're just trying to watch one episode of a cartoon on your streaming thing. You just start to hate the content. And you just purposely put unfollow just so you don't have to watch or see any more of these ads coming in.
Well, realistically, shouldn't it be that you're invited to a show and you're promoting it for the show, so the show doesn't have to promote it anymore? Isn't that your job being a guest? They shouldn't have to do that.
If I am a guest, correct. But I believe Brian was also discussing for the level of, hey, promote people who even aren't guests, or more low-key who had to pay for a table.
That's never.
Actually, not necessarily people that had to pay for a table, but it's a good thing to explore, though.
They're too busy promoting cosplayers in cars.
Yeah, followers, man.
How dare they? They're not going to have time for us peasants who paid for a table. No, those cosplayers, they bring people in. And
one of the things that jumping back on Salt Lake that they do right is they actually submit to you a form and go, hey, we're going to start promoting for artists. Here's the format. You need to submit us this, and this, and then we'll put it into the format for you. Yeah. And then they tell you, hey, this is, you're good to go, and we'll cross promote it. They'll do it for books. They do it for artists. They do it for crafters. But that's where the obligation comes from my end as well, to actually go in and make sure I'm filling that out on time. So I don't know. I think it's a good and a bad thing as far as promotion is concerned. If you're not doing it in a formula that everyone can make it easy to read, and it's not oversaturated, then you just got to plan it out more. Do it like 200 days in advance. Here's 2 artists a day, or 2 creators a day.
Or at least put everybody up on the website. I mean, when I look at Motor City Con, they list all the vendors, they list all the guests, and I go through there, and I might not go, oh look, there's William Shatner again, but I may go, oh, Josh Lyman's there, cool, sell my clothes, mom, I'm going to heaven, I've got to see him. It's that way everybody gets a shot at some eyeballs in front of them, basically.
Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, no, you're fine. I apologize. I was just saying one of the things shows used to do and they stopped doing as much was just because they always had just an excess of this was the table of contents or the map for Artist Alley in the brochure or the portfolio. And it really came down to is people weren't paying for the ad space that would produce this thing anymore. And then I don't know about you guys, but I personally didn't really like it when people were like, "Hey, I'm just collecting signatures from every single person in Artist Alley in this brochure." You
Didn't
know,
bother
make sure you sign it really small right next to your thing.
me. Didn't bother
Yeah.
me, but I would sign it big. Especially if they said that, then I'd sign it bigger. If you're
For
gonna,
kids, if it's a kid's notebook or something, I'll sign. But like it's one of those things where it never really panned well. And so that causes more issues. Now, I have started noticing some places have started putting up little signs in front of each row. That'll be like, here's row A, and then they'll list out which table numbers are in that specific zone to help out, to coincide with their website. Some have apps now as well, depending on the size of their show. So, I mean, Comic Cons are just evolving. So, just
I've never
figuring that
seen
out.
I've never seen anybody ask me to sign where my table was, but
Mhm.
some of the conventions have autograph pages in the back now, like 3 or 4 blank pages for you to autograph that you were at the show. I've signed a couple of those, but drawing in those though have been pretty. Those get out there. Go ahead though.
but get back to the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, for sure.
No, what Brian is saying is good, but I also don't think that the promoters know how to promote anymore because they keep leaning on cosplayers, they keep leaning on cars, on things that don't matter. I don't see them promoting panels anymore. Local artists aren't something that they talk about anymore because they're all follow each other and it's a bunch of idiots just following in a circle. And they're constantly just doing the same things because all they're chasing now is money. And they forgot the core basics of like what Randy said. Put on a good show, entertain people, make everyone feel happy. How many times you guys go to a show and everyone looks fucking miserable? You know, like, because no one's having fun because it's shitty. They're not promoting it well. It's not well put together. You spend half the time telling people where the celebrities are.
Like it's snowing when it's April.
Yeah. You know? And well, you have cosplayers in front of your fucking table taking pictures. I still think that should be a rule. No taking pictures in the middle of aisles. There should be designated cosplay sections for pictures, and then that's it. Because it really affects the flow, and it affects people who are there to do business. No problem with cosplayers being there, just not in the middle of every aisle. That's me. I'm done. I'm done bitching. Varian?
I mean, look, I remember, and I think I said the story before. There was a Hawkman, coming down the aisle. Very nice costume. He had mechanical, expandable wings. He pulled something, the wings went out. Gosh, he must have had.
Why does Hawkeye have wings?
I said Hawkman.
Oh, Hawkman. I missed that. I was like, what?
I did say Hawkeye at first. I said I meant Hawkman. Really, like this expansive wingspan. It was really impressive. But people are like, you know, Hawkman, can I take a picture? And he's like, down here, guys, down here at the end of the aisle, near the wall. I'm not stopping the Artist Alley to take this picture. And he's right, because I mean he would have to stop, pull that harness, and let those. You know what I mean? When I say the wings went out far, they went out really, really far. He had to go to the end of the table. And I appreciated that. I appreciated him. You know, I mean, you're kind of walking down still in eyeballs. But at the same time, he did pay for a ticket to come to that convention. He has the right to walk around.
Charge him more. I think if they started paying charging cosplayers, less of it dress up. Oh, you're a cosplayer, your ticket's $55. Why? Because you're going to be a nuisance. Whether you want to be or not, you're a nuisance. And we charge more because you're a nuisance.
Well, let's not forget, too, sometimes the crappiest cosplayer that you see walking around there, they are there to make money because they're coming in and they're going to enroll themselves into that costume contest later that night. They try to make, $5 to $1,000. That's why they're there. I mean, they're there to make some money, too. So.
No, we don't hate cosplayers. It's just that you don't understand. Every comic book creator, artist, anyone who's ever been at a show has at least a dozen stories of cosplayers who just do stupid things. Put their iced coffee down on your stuff. Right on top of your books, right on top of your eye. Just dripping. The people who set up in front of your table take a 20-minute picture and then start talking to each other. Oh, my God, I haven't seen you in so long. Let's spend 20 minutes right in front of you. I start pitching the shit out of my book. I start reading excerpts from it. Like, I don't care. I just won't go it. I don't know. But Varian, we were passing to you to change the subject because I'll keep complaining.
Well, I guess my next thing would be you. Well, I guess you guys talked about it, but trying to create some type of initiative to get people to go back to that table, to get back to Artist Alley, or to go back to where their independent creators are. Something to pull them back there.
Want to put them together? Because you know, what I mean, are you guys at shows where everyone's like, I didn't realize there were comic book creators. Like we've become where's fucking Waldo because no one knows we're there. I've had people literally stop in front of my table and go, do you make comics? And I'm not kidding you. I'm not exaggerating this. And I was like, yeah. Like, I haven't seen anyone today. And I will literally stop and walk around the show after someone says that, and I'll find 4 other comic book creators at a comic con.
Yeah. You could, I mean, they could figure out some way to get attendees to be interested in the areas where the indie or, you know, the independent or the comic book creators are. Whether that be, hey, maybe you go back there. There's, I don't know. Like, I don't want to say a scavenger hunt. I think that's a dumb idea, but just something to get people excited about going back there because, like you said, there are people who don't even realize that part of the con exists. And you know, if you got a big show, it's easy to lose them. I mean, especially when I'm seeing Artist Alley sections at certain shows shrink or get tighter because, you know, I mean, the promoters is like, yeah, those are just those guys. I got some celebrity artists here, and then they get a nice spot. But the guys who are paying, I'm gonna give them
nothing.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them a little tight little corner to sit in.
But we'll invite 30 cosplayers to take up all the room and do nothing the whole time, but sit around and talk to each other and show each other and take pictures of each other.
I mean, yeah, and I won't say that now. I'll keep my mouth shut. I'll keep my mouth shut. But yeah, I agree. I mean, the cosplayer ratio was a little high. The female cosplay ratio was higher than the males, though. I'll say that in terms of who's getting invited to these shows.
And the males always look so sad because they know they're not the pretty girl. They know that they just made the cut, but they're so close to another girl coming in and taking their spot in a second. Like middle of the show, I'm sorry, you're not as hot as her. You have to go. We're taking your badge back. Goodbye.
Randy, how do you combat people coming in like really expensive or expansive costumes? How do you combat that? Because I really don't see that problem with y'all. I see cosplayers, but I don't see large amounts of cosplayers walking in with this eye-catching costume. I mean, there have been a few, but do you combat that? Do you stop them?
I got a small show. If they've got a large costume and I see them, I tell them to be mindful of others. But other than that, that's as far as it goes. So I have more of a problem catching people with revealing costumes, or that actually want to carry. I had one guy dress up as the Punisher that wanted to come into my show with real weapons. That was an interesting discussion. So it's like, dude, you're in a farmer's market and you're carrying what? You need to take those quietly out to your car. Leave the knife there too while you're at it.
See, we're in Florida. People walk around with guns. There, you're not supposed to. But
walking around's fine. You're in a farmer's market though, and that's beyond incredibly rare. That gets people, that raises the fear level, I think.
Oh no, I don't think they belong. I'm with you. I'm just amazed that in Florida it happens so frequently, and there's security at the front door supposedly going through things, and you still find guys with, because I guess they have carrier's permits and they let it go.
They had somebody walking in with an AK with his hand in the military position. It's it's time for him to take it out to his car.
Yep, I agree. All right, so Josh, what do you think? Fundamental thing that people can do better when we see cons again in 2021?
I think if we could take a little bit from the concept of like an amusement park as far as maps and guides on the show floor, I think that would help with presentation and making sure people can figure out where they're supposed to go, regardless of where you choose to move stuff. But if you bring out the cutesy little map and go, you need to be here for this. You're not right here. Here's this to your left, because, there's a little bit of a herd mentality as far as that's concerned. But it's funny because when you do try to mix it up and make it organized, and be like, hey, we try to make sure that this crafter's here or this comic book writer's here, and mix it up so there's variety. Then people complain about that, but when you put them all together, doesn't matter if it's inkers, writers, jewelers, whatever have you. People complain about being next to their competition. So there's never, in my opinion, there's not going to be a win for that. But I think better signage and more signage, just keep it simple. Adapt. Make sure you go, okay, this is what Artist Alley looks like this year. I mean, those metal things, once you buy them once, all you got to do is slide it in a new piece of paper.
Yeah, but it also, I would think, Josh, it also comes down to common sense. Like when the people say, "Oh, they're my competition," too bad. People know where you are now. Sell better things. I'm sure the knockoff ketchup really hates being next to Heinz, but no one's going to move ketchup to another aisle because it's worried about what Heinz is going to do. You can't make everyone, again, same thing with Variant. You can't make everyone happy. Life's not that simple. Making it easier for the consumer is what they're supposed to do. And then you're up to your own. That's it. That's just how it is. You're around other people, sell quality product, learn to pitch better. That's the reality. And if they stop, because how many of you guys have been stepped on by crafters where they come over and they start talking to people or they stand in front of their tables and they block things? I know I get that problem because they don't have the same show etiquette, because they don't care. They're taking things they didn't create, they're slapping on some products, and they're selling it without being a licensed item. They don't care. They're already breaking laws. You think they read the rules of a Comic-Con? No. They're going to do whatever they can to make money because no one's – and again, this goes back to what Brian and Varian had said. No one's walking the show floor actually holding these people accountable. It takes us as vendors to go, hey, that's not fair. Why is that happening? And we've been on this show a couple times where people have called over promoters. I think Varian was talking about this, where it's like, oh, that's okay. And I remember someone on the panel told you, remember it was the two people who said that they were together and they were talking across the aisle. Yep. And I remember someone on the panel said that, no, you should have talked to the promoter. But where the hell is the promoter? The promoter should be able to be gotten by an app. We should have their phone number. I mean, if we're paying to be there, just imagine that. You have your landlord's number. You have if you get hired by a company, you have your manager's number, human resources. We give these people money and then we have an email address. That's it. That's it. An email address.
I don't know if you ever tried to email those people during the show, but it's damn near impossible. I remember one convention I went to had a snitch line. Text us and tell us what the problem is and where it's occurring at, and we'll be right over to take care of it. And I don't have to use the snitch line, but goodness, it'd be nice if they all had one. Hey, get over here now. This guy is, selling whatever, or he's doing this. That'd be nice if they're going to actually use it. I mean, some of that is just, yeah, I'll go buy a minute phone from the local Walmart, and as long as we make them think that they're getting someone cares, we'll never really handle it. But I've emailed people when there was an immediate problem and didn't get an email back even after the end of the convention. Like, sorry, it was hectic, missed your emails, nothing, just totally ignored.
I've taken the liberty of just having photos now, so if I have to do a personal interaction, it's not just my word. But I think we can all definitely agree that accountability could be stepped up as far as enforcing if there's any rules or guidelines.
I think that especially, if you start enforcing guidelines, like, here's the problem, and I've seen this happen. Hey, these people are doing this. Why is this happening? Because I was told I can't do that. Yeah, we'll talk to them. They don't talk to them, and then 4 months later, you find out, hey, guess what? I got a book coming out. And they're doing it, and you start to figure out, oh, I see why they got away with it now. We got to kind of start watching that with with promoters too. Some promoters are getting in the publishing game, and they're letting the publisher who came to the show kind of run roughshod over everybody else. That's happening. Mm-hmm. Special favors. I'd like to see that go away. By the way, when we come back in 2022,
that wasn't me, by the way.
Oh no, it wasn't, Randy. It wasn't. I mean, the exact. Rob, I've seen your mouth move. I think.
Yeah, I'm on mute because Jackson's crazy again today. That goes back to that gatekeeping. A lot of these cons have been gatekeeping for a long time and wondering why they're suddenly crashing when they bring the same people year in and year out who are now complaining about the event because every year they're there, they feel more important and more entitled. And now, oh, well, this, oh, that. Like I said, there was that one group, small group, that was complaining about Baltimore. But you go away from that small group and everyone was talking highly about Baltimore. So, and it goes down to some creators being like, well, I'm not going to go to a show if I'm not an invited guest. Then get out of the way. Then don't complain later online that no one's inviting you. Like Josh said, give us a discount. We'll be there. We'll promote it more. That's just engage with us. Stop trying to think you figured out the magic sauce and you know everyone who's going everywhere. I'm going to go kill my son, but I pass this to anyone who wants to do it.
Are we reading a question?
Welcome to Never Mind the Furthermore. I'd like to welcome my guest today.
Not that. What I meant was continue the conversation about that. But it's fine. We'll move on then. Randy, since the kids couldn't play well, what would you do to fundamentally change the cons?
Fundamentally change the cons? Wow.
Yep.
You'd have to have some sort of personally, I'd like to see more Comic Cons. That's just me, though. I want to see more conventions out there dedicated to the art form as opposed to every little media star who happened to be in the background of a film that was out 20 years ago. That would be kind of cool to see. Hey, guess what, kids? At this place, we have all comic creators. It might be less attended than the people going there to see the big stars, but you'd pull more attention to the art form more than the outside media. And there's a place for the outside media shows. It's just the same problem that's plagued San Diego since probably the 70s. Is that should we split into a comics con and into a media con? And back when I first got into this business, it was all comics. And if you had somebody from the outside, it was one special guest. Here's Ray Harryhausen bringing his collection of stop motion characters that he used in the movies. Isn't this great? Or here's Chuck Jones who did all the Bugs Bunny cartoons. Isn't he great? It's not like an entire wall of people that were, I was in 3 episodes of Star Trek. I was in and all of these odd media features. There's a place for that. But there also needs to be a focus back to the sequential art end of things, I think. That's my soapbox.
That's a good point, I think. And I think that's a problem with even smaller shows, that they have to emulate the larger shows with the wall of stars. Mm-hmm. And instead, like I'm with you. One of the things I like about some of the shows that I mentioned earlier was that they pick like one celebrity, one name, in a specific area, like say an actor or a comic guest, and concentrate on them being the big kahuna. Whereas a lot of, a number of shows that I see anymore, smaller shows granted, although I think the same thing could be true of the bigger ones now, is that you have X number of dollars to spend on celebrities. Well, if I get I could probably get, for the same money I get, could get like a John Barrowman or a somebody that everyone has heard of, an iconic character, or I could get like 10 people who were walk-ons on The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get the 10 walk-ons because people will say, "Oh, there's 10 people there." I agree with you. I think there should be more specialization. Make a show genuinely special. And I agree. I would like to see more comic conventions, and like Heroes Con's has been making it work since day one. That's very comic centric.
That's a great example. Yeah. Yep.
Thank you. And I think if other people did that, they maybe if they were carved out that niche for themselves, they might be able to get a piece of what's left of the comic industry.
You can even get more specialized than that. Around October, run a horror con that is a focus on the old of the artists that were back in the 50s and 60s. Yeah. What few of them there are left that were actually doing horrific material. Or Varian and I have talked about this before, doing an underground con with 18 and older. with
Yeah.
specifically adult material with a warning up front that this is an adult con and your ID will be checked at the door.
Absolutely.
But here is a group of great underground artists that you haven't seen in years.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I think it's a super idea, really.
I think it'd be very interesting to see. It's time to let the market get big enough to splinter off and have that happen.
And it could be that maybe some of these people who are feeling underserved by the convention, say the underground
Yeah.
folks or the independent comic creators, they don't know they've got a place they can go.
Yeah.
And maybe if you open it up, and this might be an example of you open the doors and they will show up. So hopefully, I think that's a great idea.
Pregnant pause.
I know.
What do you think, Josh?
Like, remember, pass, guys. Try to pass to each other.
Yes, hey.
You all jump,
I
but you never pass to each other.
I'm 50-50 on the concept. I do like whenever somebody likes to try something new or do a niche audience, but the problem with that is, once again, cultivation of your audience, as well as actually making sure the people who are supposed to be there are gonna be there.
Yeah.
Like, if you're filling up an artist space for an adult themed thing and somebody comes in and all they have are cutesy art,
Yeah.
just as an example.
Yep.
Or art that's borderline adult theme but not. You can't suddenly say this person can't be there because they don't fill the quota, but at the same time, I don't know. It depends. Like, there are a lot of shows like MonsterCon and Fear Fest and all this other ones that strive very, very well with a horror theme on that, and they purposely try to find those larger groups of niche actors. Like, hey, this guy's died in 16 horror movies in the 80s, and nobody knows his name except for the people that have seen him die in those aforementioned films.
Sure.
But it can always go one way or the other, and you have to make sure that you keep on to that certain level. That's all I can really say on it.
I also think that, and we're going to get to comments now, I think that a lot of times a lot of these promoters just overthink things and make it too complicated. Like Randy said, take it back to basics. Comic books. You want to do celebrities, get 3 or 4 really good celebrities, and then mix in the comic book celebrities with the comic book creators. Just put them on an end cap. Real simple. Keep them where they belong. They'll appreciate it a lot more. It's why New York Comic Con, they're mixed in. And again, one of the best artist alleys on the planet. Baltimore does the same thing. I don't know how San Diego does it, but you get the point. All right, so let's do some comments. Vendors should understand that if it wasn't for independent creators, they probably would not have a show. I don't know if that's true anymore, considering how few independent creators there are at some shows nowadays, especially with expos popping up and pop culture and all this stuff. If they just replace us with some more Funko Pop dealers, then they'll be fine. I usually have to pay extra money to not have to sit next to Brian. I think he gets that extra money. I think he sets it up on purpose, to be honest. I meant to say promoters. Sorry about that. No worries. Carl Whitman says, I have been to things where the con owner was there just to suck up to celebrities from celebrity guests. He would never talk to people who bought tickets to the event, right? Like, how often do you see, again, Reed Pop, a lot of credit to them. I see them walking around. Even MegaCon. I hear a lot of people talk about MegaCon in a bad fashion down here. And I think it's because they all fell in love with the old owners and Fan Expo is a colder company. But I like what MegaCon does, actually. I've never liked the SuperCon, and I'm excited to see what Reed does with SuperCon. So, Carl, so I get that, Carl. I do. Sarah S. says YouTube is working for me much better than Facebook right now. Doesn't YouTube always work better than Facebook? Doesn't it? Another hi, hey people. Baseball says they're coming back in July, but stop me if I'm wrong. I heard baseball was coming back to empty stadiums in July. Am I wrong? But does anyone know an update on that? Anyone a baseball fan?
I don't have a coin handy, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, wrong group.
Draw stuff.
Wrong group. Hey there, Sarah. I'm watching on both. Ooh, he's taking us on both ways. I was for a while, Eric, LOL. Finally, I had to get off Facebook. Oh, I thought it was just get off. I was getting excited. Multitasking the same task. Sarah S. I am on the phone watching it on Facebook, my laptop watching it on YouTube, and doing my work. Wow, he's got us all over the place. He's got us spread out. Sarah S. says, "LOL." James Eric Hodson, why aren't you on the show, Hodson? You know a lot of things. He never asks to be on. Wizard, for all of its faults, you can always find Peter or Joe Jr. I thought they didn't own it anymore. Peter and Joe Jr. I thought they're no longer.
They've never owned it. They've just been, chief in charge, etc.
But I thought they got the last year. Is that wrong?
I mean, they were there in January, from what I was told.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were there in January. Joe Jr. I seen him.
Oh, because I had heard people saying that they were getting rid of all the regular people and bringing in a whole new group again.
They typically don't do that until right before their Philadelphia show.
Oh, okay.
It's because it's their big show of the year, and it's the real test to see if people can stand the metal. At least from my observations.
More regional small shows, but more regional small shows, sure, but big cons are money, and they need to cast a wide net to pay those bills. Are they money, though? Are some of these bigger shows really money? Because I've gone to a lot of big shows that have just sucked, James, and so have you. I'll leave it out to you guys. Do you really think the bigger shows are really doing that good? Because I've heard nothing but complaining for the last 5 years from creators. Are they bitchy little girls, or do they have a point that these bigger shows aren't all what they cracked up to be? We'll go around the room this time. Brian, Varian, Josh, Randy. That way everyone gets a chance.
Okay. Real quick, I don't think a lot of them are doing as well as they like us to believe they are. I talked to a number of people that do Wizard shows and walk away losing their shirts. By the same token, I hear some people that are doing well at them. It depends on if they have the right product and the right crowd, just like any other show, just like a small show. So, and I know the Wizard shows have huge overhead because they're always in a major venue. So hard telling. But we can always find out if we read the stock report on Wizard, who's on like their 15th owner by now. And Randy has his hand up. Yes, sir.
I got to step out for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. It's just like school. So anyway, so that's my opinion. Varian, what do you think?
I think that, shows are expensive to put on. There's a lot of things that known promoters that I speak with putting those shows on can cost a couple million. These guys and gals are putting on shows, and they're going into they could be enjoying, to make more money. I definitely get that, but I do agree there are some people who are saying we're making great money, we're doing big, and they're not. And that can go all throughout the comics, like the industry itself. But as far as the shows, yeah, there are. I hate to say it, but even I know even the Wizard will, a lot of shows will actually lie about their gate numbers, and you can watch a lot of people who know the game kind of balk when we see after the show. Oh, we like to think over our 90,000 people who came in throughout the weekend, and you look at me and Josh, and we look at each other, we're like, that wasn't 90,000 people. We didn't see them. Yeah. They came to the show. We didn't see them. And sometimes it could be even a case of ghosting, which I know that a lot of us have been experiencing lately. People coming to the cons, usually cosplayers, coming to the shows, and they are selling, or they're sitting up in the lobby showing off their cosplay, but they're not buying tickets to get into the show. They're just in the common areas hanging out.
Yeah.
What do you think, Josh?
Sorry, lost my train of thought there for a second.
Who had a train?
No, go ahead, Randy. I need a second to process. I apologize.
What were we talking about? Yeah. Sorry. What?
Brian, were you going to say something?
No. I was going to fill Randy in. We were talking about are the big shows in trouble?
Okay, good. Yeah, I don't have big shows. I just have small shows because the bigger they are, the more problems you acquire. Especially once you start doing things by committee, then it becomes really quickly. It becomes a too many cooks situation. But I like the smaller shows. Now, are some of the larger shows losing money? like everything else, it seems in this business, it's not how big you are, it's how big they think you are. So some of them are doing gangbusters and some of them aren't doing it all. So, but the smarter ones aren't saying.
Mhm.
Yeah, keeping it close to their belt.
Yep, it's that simple because they don't want competition because they don't want to spoil a good thing.
Josh?
So usually
Yeah, I mean-
the loudest voices are the smallest profits.
Yeah, and that's sometimes really what it boils down to is just like planning it out. Like some shows are very vocal about dealing with what their things are, but yeah, they are expensive to put on. No,
Yeah,
I
they
agree.
are.
I don't know. I kind of don't really have an opinion because I've had shows that have been very low cost and very small venues that have been good, and large ones that have been just giant clusters. And the ones that run it vary depending on the year, and I kind of just approach it from that side. So I guess I don't know. I just don't have too much of an opinion on it.
All right, well, I'll close this out then. And then we're going to say where everyone can find us because we're at that 2-hour mark. I really think that we live in a Comic-Con culture where it's the boy who called profit. Basically, we've been told that the only way to survive as creators is to go to these shows. They've built this entire system that has no accountability, no checks and balances, and we're just chugging along because we don't know any better way forward. I think in one way the pandemic has really woken us up to the way we've been treated. And I hope to see that when the return comes, that we demand more. We had just started the Greater-Con last year, and it all went to hell. But it's not going away. It'll be there when everything restarts. And it is time the creators stop worrying about getting blackballed and start worrying about making these cons live up to a higher standard and live up to the money that we're giving them. The fact that they're spending all of our money to put on celebrities but can't get it down where they're doing the right things for the guest comes before anyone else. If they don't have security that respects the guests coming through the door, if they don't have proper setup that helps the guests enjoy the environment and walk through properly, those are all problems to our guests who become our fans, who become the people that this entire industry and culture of cons revolves around. So if I have anything to say to the con promoters and creators, do right by your guests. Stop trying to make it about your ego. Stop trying to be able to brag about something and really look at how you can make the experience better for the people paying to be there. Forget about us at the tables for a minute. Focus on that. And then when you're done focusing on them, remember that we're paying for tables. Stop acting like you're doing us a favor. You're not. Because if anything has shown you, there's competition that's willing to take your spot any day of the week. So every time you slip up, there is another show. So I do hope there's a purge. I hope all the bad promoters get killed here and all the great promoters be celebrated. So I'm asking you guys, the guys who go into the cons, whether you're a creator or a fan, please talk up the good shows right now. Talk about how you miss all the good shows. Be positive in that regard. There are great shows out there. Like I said, Daytona. I like MegaCon. I don't care what anyone else says. Reed Pop does great things. Baltimore Comic Con. Raleigh Galaxy Con. All amazing shows, plus amazing smaller shows like Southwest Florida and the Orlando Infinity Toy and Comic Show. Great shows, great venues. Please talk about that. Put positivity in the world. Yes, we all have opinions how to make things better. Yes, we can all point fingers. But what we can do even better is to promote and bring people up. Because while not as many people will necessarily listen, at least we're putting positivity in the world and we're encouraging people to do the right thing. And I hope at the end of all this, that's what we start doing, the right thing, not the popular thing. All right, Brian, how can they find you?
Oh, I make that easy. First of all, you can go to risingtide.pub. That's my website where you can sign up for my monthly newsletter. Also, every day on Facebook, I do a daily show called Never Mind the Furthermore. It's a live show very much like this. Not as entertaining because Rob isn't on it, but we got to fix that. Anyway, I mean in person, that is. But anyway, Never Mind the Furthermore every morning, 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central Time. Also, Tuesday nights, we have an interview show called Clever Title Pending, where we talk about creativity and the business behind it. This week, we're going to be talking to two first-time people who got their books published and what it took to get there and where they're going to go from there. Anyway, I think it's going to be a great discussion, and you're invited to join in on Clever Title Pending, 8 p.m. tomorrow night on my personal channel and on YouTube, and also the Rising Tide Pub. Next.
Hello, everybody out there. I'm Varian Grant. You can find me at whenweriot.com, my personal website, which I plan to update very, very soon, as well as IndieVolt. It's IndieVolt.com, IndieVolt Radio, IndieVolt TV on Roku. And of course, every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. with Randy Zimmerman, we do Indie Vote Live, and every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Indie Vote Breakfast Buzz, and then even more. Wednesday night, I'm on loan to Indie Vote's Geekgasm show at 9 o'clock p.m., which is hosted by Lola, and I'm just at the board. And then Friday night at 9. We love our 9s at Indie Vote, 9 p.m. for The Art of War.
Your tagline,
And-
Comic Radio to the Nines. Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's all good. And guys, my name is Josh C. Lyman. You can find me at Art of Josh Lyman on Instagram as well as through Facebook, and soon to be artofjoshlyman.com, which will just link you to those subsequently. We do live streams, of course, with comic book advocates, and then occasionally jump in with Indie Volt. But I also do live streams where I'm just sitting there and drawing and kind of just talking off cuff while I'm doing that. So thanks for tuning in and watching today.
Hey, everybody, I'm Randy Zimmerman. You can find me at the Indie Volt times that Varian just told you about. Plus, I'm on Facebook and Twitter, usually under Randy Zim or Randy Zimmerman. And you can find me at the Zim Geek channel on YouTube. That's ZIMMGEEK here on YouTube, where I teach cartoon instructionals, and I talk about the comic biz in the different aspects of it from my perspective. So, and see you on Indie Volt. And thanks for listening today.
All right, guys, thanks for being part of the lively conversation today. It has been awesome to bring you this conversation. Make sure to talk to your friends about everything that you like and you see when it comes to Comic Cons. Put positivity out there. Yeah, we were a little bit on top of people, but the whole point was making things better today. You don't sit down talking about how to make a house better, talking about the things you like. You start with the things you don't like. But remember, there's a lot to like about our comic book industry and the culture that it's created with Comic Con. So please go out there and support people. Now, especially, you have all the money from going to Comic Con, so go out there and find a creator that you like by looking them up on the internet. All right, guys, that's it. Remember, we'll be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern for another panel, an exciting one, all part of the OnCon experience and powered by the Advocating Network, which most people are a part of, including Josh now by being part of Cat Dad and Supermom as an artist. He's part of the Comics in Kids' Hands. So this is the network coming to you, giving you great information. Thank you all for spending the day with me, and thank you to all the panelists giving up their time to educate and to give opinions.